Hello, Steve White, TrekBoy89 for SteveArts89. Well, Doomcock made another video, which I found kind of interesting. Now, you all know that the contract for KurtzMan and Secret Hideout has been extended, and they're going to be producing Star Trek for another 5 years, basically. And a lot of Star Trek fans are upset about this. A lot of real Star Trek fans are mourning this because they see it as the death of Star Trek, because they just don't believe it can survive another 5 years under Kurtzman. That no one wants to see more new Trek and more JJ Prime Universe Star Trek. They want the original canon Star Trek. They want updated, they want new series, new stories, new actors, new characters, everything, but they want it to be Star Trek set in the same universe with the same licensing rights, where everything looks as it's supposed to when they're dealing with anything from history. But that's not what's going to happen in the near future. And a lot of people are upset about that. A lot of people are angry. And a lot of people are baffled. They're sort of like, how could this happen? Why would they go back into business with him again? Why wouldn't they just let the contract run out and then just hire someone else and make real Star Trek with the complete license and all the elements that people want in Star Trek? Well, Doomcock had a theory, or he had a rumor, or he had some inside information. And I thought it was kind of interesting. I don't believe it, just to be clear. I don't believe this, but I just find it interesting enough to comment on. He's suggesting that somehow, probably through Prodigy, Kurtzman got Playmates back into the fold, and they have funded the film which Bad Robot's making, the revised Star Trek 4, and that in order to make that film, they had to renegotiate the film contract, and while they were doing that, they were forced to renegotiate the TV contract as well and stay in business with Kurtzman and Secret Hideout, as well as J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot. So I don't believe this. Now, my understanding with the film contracts were they originally were contracted to make 3 films for Paramount with the license from CBS, and they had to extend that to finish the 3rd film because they got behind, and there was a no-compete clause for for CBS and the TV shows and the movies. So because they'd extended that, when Les Moonves wanted to then suddenly use Star Trek, exploit Star Trek to launch a streaming service, they had already extended the contract, and because of the no-compete clause, they couldn't make a TV show while the films were still in production. So they had to negotiate with them to make Discovery through Secret Hideout, and that's how all that mess happened, supposedly. Now, Paramount had sort of the first right of sort of proposal where they could approach CBS Viacom about making another Star Trek film, but they didn't have to accept it. And supposedly JJ and that have proposed many Star Trek films, and they've basically not picked any of them up, and they've not greenlit any of them, and they've just been sort of proposals that they tried to get some media attention, they really went nowhere. So what he's suggesting is that because they got Playmate involved and got the funding for a film, that Paramount had to make it, and in order to make it they had to renegotiate the contracts, and that's why they were renegotiated. That doesn't really make sense. They didn't have to make the film with them, and they didn't have to negotiate anything. If he said, well, I'm not going to make this movie if you don't make my TV series and extend my contract, they could have just said, fine, we don't want to. So they're doing this because they want to. I think they believe it is easier to just stay on on the track they're going with, the track they're on, and rather than rebooting Star Trek and starting over again and paying a lot of money to redesign and everything, they're just going to stay with where they are, who they've got, and if there's any problems, just fix them down the road and just keep going the way they're going. I think that's what they decided to do. They just sort of looked at it and said, they considered rebooting and just said, too difficult, too expensive, too time-consuming, we need money now, just pump out more Star Trek, and if there's any issues, we'll fix them down the line. I think that's what has basically happened here. But other than that, it's just basically he's a good grifter and a good politician. That was what I just assumed, that he just somehow convinced them that Star Trek was in better shape than it was, and that they just weren't in touch with the fans and what the fans wanted, and like what was, what's happening on the ground, and they just sort of got, sold on sort of his, grift again. But I think it's probably it's probably just they just wanted to keep going. They didn't want to reboot or anything. So yeah, Doomcock got really angry and he was all, it's all Playmate's fault. They're the reason for this contract being extended and Star Trek dying, so never buy anything from them again, blah, blah, blah. And he went quite a little rant and rage, and it was kind of funny. But yeah, I don't believe it, but I just thought it was interesting enough to comment on and do a video on, and here I am. So feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think, if you think that's what happened, or if you think he just grifted his way through because they didn't want to restart all over again. Let me know. I'm curious what people think. I'm going to go. Thanks. Bye.